You're listening to the Iterators of the Imperium.
Hi, I'm MEZ, and I'm here with my lovely co-host Ryan, and you're listening to Season 3 of the Iterators of the Imperium podcast, the podcast in which Ryan is the expert on Warhammer 40K, and I am the noob trying to learn about the Warhammer universe. And as you guys can see here for Season 3, we do have visuals on our podcast, and this goes for both YouTube and Spotify. So if you just listen to this, then open your eyes and look at our glorious, magnificent studio. But yeah, I can ramble on about the studio for way too long. So Ryan, let's get into it. You take the wheel. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was brilliant. I love that. All right, Mez. Right, we've done this 8 times already. We're halfway through. This is going to be a fun one, right?
Yeah.
You know what the deal is. You know who we're talking about. But as per usual, I'm going to set the scene for us before we get into this. All right?
Yes.
So, as you know, you are a super baby in this episode.
Yeah.
As we know
go.
you love to be.
Yes. I am the super baby.
Metaphorical baby, or a theoretical baby, if you will. Blind to the universe around you, an innocent little child. And the year is somewhere between 700 and 800 of the 30th millennia. So the Nesh has just been born. The Eldar are being effed up by that and, struggling. On Terra, the Emperor of Mankind has finally united, I guess, Terra.
Yes.
Yeah. And with that, he is finally able to go out into the galaxy and begin his crusade to, I guess, just, claim everything in the name of mankind. It's kind of what he does.
Yes.
It's kind of like a weird manifest destiny kind of thing. What we're here to discuss today is the planet Nocturne.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's beautiful, though.
Yes, this is the planet you landed on today. As you can guess by looking at it, it is a death world. Because look at it.
I mean, I would say it looks like a disco ball on fire or something.
Honestly, it may as well be.
It's lit. Quite literally.
Yeah,
I like that.
A flaming disco ball would be easier to live on than this world. If I'm entirely honest.
I believe you. I believe you 100%.
Alright, I'll give you the lowdown on this planet.
Yes,
Nocturne is a death world, and as you might guess, it is an absolute nightmare of a place, right? This is primarily because of 2 things, right? The sun for this planet and that moon next to it. Those are the two major issues with this planet, right? Because the sun for this planet gives out a really weird low-level radiation, which has really done a number on the people of this planet, but we'll circle back to that later. But the reason the planet itself is such a nightmare is because of this moon right here, right? Because that moon is way too close and way too big to be a reasonable moon for that planet, right? So the main planet is Nocturne. The moon for it is Prometheus, and because it's so large and so close by, it does crazy stuff to the kind of, I guess, the tectonics of Nocturne itself. So you end up with a planet that is completely covered in volcanoes, and then is constantly thrashed by tidal waves and earthquakes, which the earthquakes then cause the volcanoes to erupt, and so on and so forth. So it's just a constant hellscape of environmental disasters because of this moon being too close and too big.
God, that sounds horrific.
Yeah. So, actually, interestingly, right? Actually, one other thing first, before I get to that interesting part, right? Not only is the sun trying to kill you, the planet itself trying to kill you, the moon trying to kill you, the wildlife on this planet are also pretty rough. Because, for example, their most famous wildlife is the fire drake, which live in the kind of volcano-y mountain ranges. And it's genuinely like a 4-legged dragon. They just roam around fucking stuff up.
That sounds like something I've heard about, like the Lord of the Rings or something.
It genuinely may as well be.
Maybe they have some inspirations from other lores, but we never know.
Probably is, I'll be honest with you. Probably is.
We like that though.
We do, we love it. But
Taking just all the best from the real world and real lore and fictional lore, and just putting it together in one nice little package called Warhammer. Let's get it.
I don't know if nice is a good word for that, but yeah, one hellish little package called Warhammer.
Lovely story. No, not lovely stories. No. It's fine. Continue.
It's great if you don't think about it too much.
Yep.
Yeah. So, even the wildlife is trying to kill you. What little wildlife can survive on this planet, that is. So, the interesting thing I was going to tell you a minute ago is that every 15 years every 1 year on Nocturne is equivalent to 15 years on Terra. So, every 1 year on Nocturne, they have a thing called the Time of Trial, which is when the moon Prometheus gets closest to Nocturne, and the environmental backlash of that basically almost tears the planet apart.
Oh god, that sounds horrendous.
Yeah, so the whole planet is just totally racked with tidal waves and earthquakes and volcanoes erupting and stuff. And
what a lovely family destination, huh?
Yeah.
For a good vacation.
And with that sheer amount of like volcanic ash that goes into the atmosphere, the following, 3 months? Or no, it's the following quarter of a year. So I guess that's like 4 years or something if it's a Nocturne year, or it's 3 months if it's a Terran. I don't know which. They have a really harsh winter. To the point that basically everything on the planet almost freezes to death. And during all this, all of the kind of tribal, nomadic people of this world go and hide in one of like the 7 sanctuary cities that are scattered around the globe. Because there's like 7 major cities on this planet, and just everyone hides in them, thinking a city will save them from volcanoes or death winter.
Well... Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say to that?
I don't have a lot to say to that. That's just like pray. I feel like praying is your best friend.
Fair.
It ain't gonna save you, but you know.
Yeah. Interesting thing. See how I mentioned that this planet has like a really weird sun with like low level radiation all the time?
Yes.
It has caused a really strange mutation in all the people on this planet. Or 2, I believe. 1 I know for a fact. I think the second one is caused by that as well. So the first is that the people of this planet have a melanin mutation, right? Because of their radiation. So rather than, like with normal humans, under, harsh sun all the time and stuff like that, gradually they evolve to have darker skin. Essentially the same thing has happened with the people of Nocturne, except it's like a mutation that's taken it to a much further degree. So their skin is like coal black.
Oh.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit grayish, if it's like coal?
Yes, exactly, yes.
Yeah.
It's very strange. But there is another mutation that people from Nocturne have, which is that they have red eyes, but... not like the iris, like the whole sclera, the whole white bit of your eye is red.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but they still have a pupil, it's just everything else is red.
Oh. It looks like a demon then. Yeah.
Diabolic is the word typically used.
Oh, well, I'm on the right track, aren't I?
Yeah, you're definitely on the right track. So that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, well, no, but yeah.
Would you like to know the cherry on top of the dystopian doomsday cake that is Nocturne?
Let me have it.
The Drukhari like to raid this planet.
Well, the story just keeps on getting better, huh?
Even with all of that going on, every couple of months, a couple hundred Drukhari will just pop up and start ransacking the joint.
Well, that's just lovely.
Yeah.
Oh god.
So what do you think? Top 10 summer holiday destinations.
I can't make it, Ryan, though. I can't make it.
Unfortunately, I am working.
I'm working that day. I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a fun place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But as terrible as all that is, does it not sound like the perfect world for a great Primarch to grow up?
I mean, it's definitely gonna toughen whoever. I'm not gonna spoil it now because wait, should I spoil it?
No,
should just say who it
we're
is.
going to get to it very shortly, but I'll let you announce it.
All right. But yeah, I definitely say it's something that'll toughen them up.
Oh,
Making
definitely,
sure,
yeah.
Yeah, like tough love, you know.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yes. Or some kind of love, at least.
No love.
Sadistic love? I don't know. Abusive love.
I mean, it's definitely gonna toughen them up and get them prepared to a life of fight or flight, essentially. And with Primarchs in general, they're not gonna choose the flight.
Well,
they're gonna fight.
interestingly, that since you mentioned that, you're right, it is a fight or flight kind of thing on this world. And the people of this world, because they keep getting raided by Drukhari, along with everything else, have chosen flight, because every one of them has their own hiding place for whenever the Drukhari attack. They'll just go like hide in a cupboard or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
But we are not doing. I am not doing that as a super baby, Ryan. I refuse.
Fair enough. All right, so we're going to get to you now, all right? So,
Yes, sir.
you landed on this terrible hellhole of a planet. And
Yes.
luckily for you, it was at the time of trial that you landed. How fun is that? Yeah, you landed when everything was at its worst possible.
Fantastic. Fits this narrative, huh?
Yeah. You were found by a blacksmith called Nibel, which is an interesting name. And he took you in, and he raised you as his own. He taught you his trade, and he raised you to be a fine young man.
Yes.
And he named you after the first king of the salamanders. Well, go on, you know this one.
Voluptuous Vulkan. No, I'm sorry. I'm never gonna get allowed to announce again. I'm sorry. I think we got the title, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, that was fantastic. I did not expect that.
I do apologize.
You know what? Last time I got to say Big Daddy Darn, and you didn't like that, so it's only fair that you get to say one of them.
A redemption arc. Let's go.
Oh. So, yes. In this episode, you are Vulkan, the man, the myth, the legend himself. So, as would be expected of a baby Primarch, you amaze the people of your town by growing to be the strongest, biggest, and smartest of them in only 3 years. As a 3-year-old, you were full-sized.
That still gets me, you know.
For the record, right, I just want to show you something here, right? Take a look at this. This is a height scale chart, right? So you can see Vulcan's at the top end of that, right? Ferris Manus is the one in the middle, and then this is a normal human at the bottom.
God damn.
Yeah, Vulcan's like 12 feet tall.
That's a tall motherfucker.
That's a 3-year-old.
In what world?
Nocturne, obviously. We've been over this.
Okay. Wow.
I had this prepared because I knew this would come up at some point. That dude is a tank.
That's actually insane.
Yeah, Vulcan is an absolute unit. He is the biggest Primarch by far.
If you could, Ryan, right now decide with no complications about this, like no trouble at all, you would literally just become that size in real life. Would you do it?
You know what? Just for the sake of it, yeah, I would. Because
I don't get the hesitation. Me is a hell yes.
Well, because my first immediate thought was, I'd have to crouch through doorways. That just sounds like hassle.
I mean, you probably have other concerns, like, for example, the government trying to get you locked down, like, do tests on you and shit. But hey, it's fine. Well, they have to catch me first.
Well, that's why. Well, yeah, that's the first problem. They're never going to get a hold of you. Like, not enough tranquilizers exist on the planet to take down that guy.
Exactly.
Like, elephant tranking you a rifle or something. It's still not going to do anything.
Nah.
They'd have to like shoot you a medieval cannon to knock you down. But yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm steering us too far off track.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's my job, essentially. That's my job here. So yeah.
That's why you're here. So yeah, 3-year-old, you're an absolute unit, and you're an absolute unit, and you're basically the smartest person on Nocturne by far. It was to such a point that you were even like discovering or inventing, I guess, for lack of a better term, new forging methods for the blacksmithing, and then teaching it to the people that have been doing it for longer than you've been alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a pretty great guy. Yeah. You're something to behold.
Maybe a little bit of a good doer, you know?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And know it all.
But your story really begins to develop within your 4th year, right? Mm-hmm. So at the age of 4, right, there is a Drukhari raid. And when this occurs, obviously everyone takes their hiding spots, as you would expect.
Yes.
But you were having none of this. You were having exactly 0 of their shit, right? Mm-hmm. So, what you did, and I'll show you a much more accurate picture of yourself here. This is what you looked like at the time. You were like, having none of this. So you got your 2 blacksmithing mauls, right? The 2 giant hammers, one on each of your shoulders, walked out into the street and announced to the Drukhari you were done with their shit. They were not raiding here today. And
let's go.
Yeah, something amazing happened. The people of your town rallied behind you. They were like, you know what? He's fucking right. Fuck those guys. And they all piled out. And you and all your townspeople just murdered the Drukhari.
Let's go.
Yeah, you killed over 100 Drukhari that day, single-handedly, with just 2 hammers.
Hey, let's be having you.
Yeah, and like they're not even like hammers as weapons. They are blacksmithing hammers. They're tools. It wasn't even like a Warhammer. It was just a hammer.
Ah, I see what you did, Warhammer.
Yeah. Yeah, you were having none of it. And yeah, so I'll be honest with you, it was a decisive victory, right? You guys fucked up the Drukhari. They were not prepared to get their asses kicked by a bunch of blacksmiths, right?
No, I could imagine, because the Drukhari went in thinking it's a routine standard job.
They're all gonna hide, we're gonna find a bunch of them, we'll steal their shit and we'll go.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, this dude rocks up and starts clubbing people with hammers. So yeah, fun times. But over the next few weeks, the leaders of all the major cities, all the sanctuary cities around Nocturne, came to meet you because they heard rumors of what had happened. And after meeting you and hearing the stories from you and from the people around you and stuff like that, they all decided that, yeah, they were on the same page. They weren't putting up with the Drukhari shit anymore. They were going to fight back. Mm-hmm. And so the people had all now, from your kind of leadership in that, had rallied to defending themselves rather than hiding. It's the big turnaround for this planet. Mm. Yeah. So, with all the leaders there, they decided that a celebration needed to occur for this. This is a big thing, right? You'd led these people into like a revelation for their society. So a celebration should occur. And you decided, or the people decided that a tournament was the way to do it, you know? Right? A big tournament of like loads of different challenges of like strength and endurance and intellect. Basically let everyone show off a wee bit and have a bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also forging as well. Forging is a big thing on Nocturne, right? Yeah. So that was one of the other things that the tests would be based around as well. Not all of them had to be about that, but like that would be a genre of test within this. So you were like, yeah, let's do it. Sounds great. All excited. Everyone's buzzing for this. And so it was organised that this would occur. Right, this tournament was set up and everything. And on the day that the tournament was set to occur, a pale man appears, right? This little pale kind of scrawny dude turns up in like shabby clothes, and he says he wants to take part. And obviously everyone there is like, you sure? Like, really? And this guy is adamant that he can beat anyone on Nocturne in these contests. He is dead set about it, bragging it to the heavens. And the people are like, dude, have you seen Vulkan? No danger. But after a bit of kind of back and forth and this guy boasting so heavily and so confidently, you and him ended up making a wager that whoever bested the other, whichever of you was the victor in these tournaments, would the loser would kind of serve them for the rest of their days. So if you lost, you would have to serve this random stranger, and if he lost, he would have to serve you for the rest of your days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the tournament begins. Now, it was loads of different kinds of challenges, all featured around crafting, strength, endurance, and intellect. But just to give you an example of one of the tournaments that went on, or one of the challenges within it, there was one which was the anvil lift. All you had to do was hold an anvil above your head for as long as you possibly could.
Okay.
Fairly straightforward, except for the fact that an anvil weighs like 60 kilos. But that aside,
both of them just like stood there for
12 hours. They stood there until it was declared a tie because everyone watching got bored.
Exactly. They could stand there for the rest of their lives, essentially.
Basically, yeah, they weren't breaking a sweat with that. So it was loads of challenges kind of along that line, and many of them took place. And by the end of the 8th day, you and this stranger were still tied. So it was decided this went on for a bit too long. So they needed to come up with a challenge which would definitely finalise it so that there would be a winner and a loser.
Yeah.
So the challenge that was thought up was you would each get 24 hours to craft a weapon. And then you would have to use that weapon to hunt a drake or a salamander.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
And whoever brought back the largest drake won, right? Because that's down to like the luck of what you can find, how good you are at hunting, if you can kill it, how good your weapon is to allow you to kill it. There's loads of things involved in it. But at the end of the day, one of you is going to bring back a bigger dead body than the other. So there has to be a winner. Simple as. Nice, clean cut, elegant, donezo. So you each spend 24 hours crafting your weapons, forging away together. And after which, you go out and you do your hunting. So drakes typically live in the kind of mountainous volcano regions. So that's where you go. You both scale the mountains and hunt. And you find a very large drake, which you proceed to fucking murder. It's not really a challenge, right?
No.
And then you start dragging it back down the mountain. Now, the issue comes in when the mountain that you're standing on, which coincidentally is a volcano, happens to erupt.
Yeah.
And the violent shock of that throws you kind of over a cliff edge on this volcano.
Okay.
So you find yourself dangling from this edge, holding yourself up with one hand and holding the tail of the drake with your other, just kind of dangling there, not able to pull yourself up and pull the weight of the drake up with one arm.
Yeah.
And you hang there for hours, right? Until eventually you start realizing your strength will fail at some point. Right? At some point you will fall, or you'll have to drop the drake so you can get your other hand up and pull yourself up, right?
Yeah.
So you either need to lose the contest no matter what, or die. Or at least risk serious injury, right?
Yeah, that's a bad situation.
Yeah, it's not a great one. And it's around the point where you're kind of deliberating this in your head with yourself that the stranger comes upon you. And when you see him, he is carrying a drake with him, right? And this one is obviously bigger than the one you have, right?
Yeah.
It is visibly significantly larger, right? God knows where he found this thing. And when he spots you, he immediately wants to come and help you. So the issue with him helping you is that there is a lava flow between you and him. He spotted you from a little bit of a distance. So there's a river of lava running down the mountain between the two of you. So to get to you, he throws his drake into the lava and uses it as a bridge to get to you. And then helps you up.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, you thank him, and the two of you return to the town together. You dragging your drake behind you, and him having left his in the lava to burn.
Yeah.
So when you get back to the village, he's empty-handed. So everyone declares you the winner. Because...
Of course.
Yeah. But rather than accept your reward, instead, you bend the knee to this stranger. Because any man who values your life over their own pride is someone that deserves your service.
Oi, Ryan.
Yeah.
Goosebumps, Ryan. That's... I like this. I like this.
Yeah. And so, the man throws off his illusory garb and shows himself to be who he really is. The Emperor of Mankind. Obviously.
Daddy's home.
That's it. So before you is standing this 14-foot tall nutcase in golden armor. And he kind of explains who he really is and who you really are and all that. The usual, you know. He's got on a card in his pocket. He just inserts the Primarch's name for each one.
His calling cards.
That's it, yeah. And with that, you are inducted into the Imperium of Man.
Yes, now.
Fun times. So I'll show you what you actually look like once you are, you know, full-fledged in your proper armor and everything.
I'm cool, Ryan.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Vulkan is a very cool dude.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. So you weren't immediately given your legion and you weren't immediately like put into action because the Primarchs that were basically immediately given their legion stuff, like Gilliman, things like that, are because they already knew how to lead an army, they already knew how to rule in a sense, and they were culturally advanced enough to actually take part in the Imperium of Man. So then they would be given their legion immediately and set out to do stuff because they could be trusted. But whereas Leman Russ, for example, he was a great leader. He had ruled his planet for a while, but the technology was so far behind he needed brought up to speed. Vulkan has a similar thing in that he's never actually been a leader, really. He's never led any form of actual military. He's never even been a soldier, realistically. He's just a big dude. He's just never lost a fight because he's a giant. So the Emperor saw fit to keep Vulkan at his side for a few years to teach him properly, himself, personally. Also spends a bit of time with Ferrus Manus, because Ferrus Manus is crafty, so they were like best buds over that. Actually, I don't think they were particularly bothered about each other, but they spent some time together before Vulkan was like out doing things on his own. So there was a bit of kind of bringing up the speed going on there. Weirdly, Vulkan is one of the Primarchs that was like kind of, I guess, more distant from what the Imperial Man actually is or required of them when he was found. A lot of them had some trait that they needed to be what a Primarch is supposed to be, and Vulkan didn't really. He wasn't a soldier, so he wasn't a particularly amazing warrior. Or he didn't have any kind of renown as a warrior, at least. He wasn't a leader of any form. He wasn't a ruler of any form. So, he was pretty far away from where he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you spend a few years at the Emperor's side learning from him, and suddenly you know everything you need to know. You're the man. And so you are
I'm caught up
given
to
your
speed.
legion.
Yeah.
So,
Let's get it.
do you know which legion this is?
Oh, I can't remember. There's so many.
Yeah, there is. So you are given the 18th Legion, which at the time were called the Dragon Warriors, but
Yeah.
were renamed after the creature that bonded or that reunited you and your father to the Salamanders.
Oh, it all comes back to me now.
Yeah, it does that.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah. Fun times.
Yeah.
So, this is the point where you would, go off into the Imperium and start crusading and stuff. Before we do the little skip, there is one thing I want to tell you. So, obviously, Vulkan's skin is the color that it is because of the mutation from Nocturne, right?
Yeah.
Interestingly, all salamanders also have coal black skin and red eyes. All of his sons also have it.
But why?
It's a weird one, right? Initially, I think that they were actually designed, the Legion was designed much like the White Scars are like Mongolian in ethnicity.
Yeah.
Right? I believe that the salamanders were initially designed to just be like of African descent. So that was why the whole Legion was like that. But then later on, it seems like it was retconned a little bit to it being due to mutation and the planet and stuff like that. So I don't know for a fact that the original salamanders that were born from Terra had the same color of skin, but modern day, as far as anyone can remember, all salamanders have had this coal skin and red eyes. So there is a fair chance that in the current lore, the first salamanders ever made that didn't come from Nocturne would have had a different color of skin.
Yeah.
But because I don't know why it would have been this coal color if they weren't from Nocturne. So I would be under the impression that the initial salamanders in the current lore would have had a different color of skin. I don't know how different, but yeah. I'm led to believe that the salamanders were initially designed as like an African representation of Space Marines. And then at some point they just lowered it up a little bit and made them have weird coal skin and made it all because of mutations and ash and stuff. Interesting thing. You know how their eyes are like red, like I told you?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a thing where their eyes are like weirdly sensitive to certain waveforms of infrared light, which isn't particularly helpful unless you are forging stuff. So that's one of the reasons that the salamanders are typically better at forging than most other people, is because they can, like, their eyes are better suited for like telling when things are the right temperature and things like that.
Yeah.
Which is quite cool.
So cool. Good blacksmiths just inherently good.
Yeah, genuinely, just genetically good blacksmiths somehow.
They just
don't know how that works,
different.
but just built different. They're built different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to get in that little bit because it's two of the things people mention a lot about the salamanders is the skin color and the eyes, which is just... The story seems to have went a little bit all over the place at some point. It seems to have been changed along the line, but it's still interesting to know. So I thought I'd tell you.
Yeah.
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 So, we're going to skip ahead to the aftermath of the heresy, but...
Yes, sir.
We have not at all covered, like, a third of, or like 2/3 of the actual Horus Heresy, right? There is like a huge section of it we haven't covered, but there is like a whole other side to the Siege of Terra that we haven't looked at all. So this is, you're going to get a little glimpse of it, but we're not going to cover it fully in this one because there's a lot to it, and there's a better way of framing it I would like to use. But Vulkan was not part of the defense of the siege as we would know it, right? He wasn't on the front lines with Sanguinius and Dorn and Jagatai Khan fighting off the Chaos Marines and traitors and stuff. But he was in the Imperial Palace at the beginning of the siege. If you'll remember, I did tell you before that Magnus actually breaks into the palace and goes to see the Emperor.
Yes.
And the Emperor offers him one last chance to return, but he has to get rid of all of his sons. And he refuses.
Yeah.
And then Vulkan descends from the rafters and kicks the crap out of Magnus in the middle of the throne room. Basically comes out of nowhere like John Cena and just starts laying into him.
You used that phrase last time as
I
well.
did.
Yeah, I remember this now. It's all coming back to me.
So actually, this whole thing happened where the webway portal that is like in the throne room was involved a lot, and basically a whole war goes on between like the Emperor and Vulkan and Magnus in this like in the throne room and in the webway. And it's just a total shit show of just carnage, which ends up with Magnus being absolutely decimated by Vulkan, who is in the process of dying. Magnus basically fells you, so you are literally like dissolving away to death in the webway as you swing your hammer one last time and just murder Magnus, which just banishes him from, I guess, everything, and sends him back to the warp. And because Vulkan is actually an immortal, he cannot die, so he just starts putting himself back together as he walks back to the throne room. So,
It is.
yeah. But this has been going on, this whole battle with Magnus has been going on in the webway while the normal siege that we've talked about before has been going on.
Yeah.
And they come to a head together. So when Vulkan gets back to the throne room, that is when he learns that that the Emperor is planning to do like a last-ditch effort where him and a couple of his sons and some honor guard teleport onto Horus's flagship. So he tells Vulkan, you're not coming with. You've got an important job, right? You watch the throne. Right? Because remember that Malkador the Sigillite is taking the Emperor's place on the throne while the Emperor's gone.
Yeah.
So if anyone gets in, he'll die immediately and everything is lost. So you're here like, look, you're the biggest dude we've got. You protect this with your life, right? But there is another thing to this, another side to this, right? Which we will cover in proper detail next season, right? But there is a thing called the Talisman of Seven Hammers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is something that Vulkan made. He crafted it earlier during the heresy with the Emperor's guidance. But he is not aware that he crafted it.
What?
It was like a fugue state kind of thing. Like he was in a trance kind of thing, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
It was like the Emperor guided him to make it, but he didn't remember doing it. We'll get into the proper detail of it when we're covering it properly in the next season. But this thing acts like a compass and led Vulkan through the webway to the Imperial Palace. Right? But it has a second purpose, because it also kind of banishes demons around it. Demons don't like this thing.
Ooh.
And at this point in time, it is now built into the throne. Right?
Nice.
Essentially, what the Emperor tells you is, you guard this throne with your life, but if Horus defeats the Emperor, or the palace falls and the throne is going to be taken, you activate the Talisman of Seven Hammers, and it basically works like a dead man switch for the throne. So if all else fails, you activate this, and it basically demon nukes all of Earth. So, no matter what, Horus was never getting Terra, right?
He was not winning. Either we win or nobody wins.
Yeah, that was the Emperor's plan with this one. And
Yeah.
this big dude was left in charge of the kill switch. It's like, you watch that old man on that throne, you make sure no one kills him, and if anything goes wrong, you hit the kill everything button. You're like, no problem.
Great. I got this.
Exactly, yeah, like, I can handle this. I guess luckily and unluckily at the same time, it didn't come to having to use it. But, the Emperor almost died and is now a corpse on a golden chair. So, win some, lose some, I guess. So, we move forward to after the whole Emperor being interred on the golden throne and all that, to the Codex Astartes kind of thing. And interestingly, you were against the whole splitting the legions into chapters thing, but not because you were like, no, we're stronger as a whole, or anything like that, or I don't want my kids separated or anything. It was actually just because your legion got totally fucked up during the drop site massacre, and you had like 12 Space Marines left. like you had very little of a legion actually to separate.
Yeah.
So you were like, I don't want to do this, because they're like, Gilliman's like, no, it'll be fine. We'll split them all up. We'll end up with like 4,000 chapters each, because we've all got like 400,000 Space Marines, right? And Vulcan's sitting there with like 12,000. Like, this doesn't seem fair.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So that was kind of your issue with it. You're like, I've got like 12 guys left. Why are we separating them? Whose idea is this? But you did go along with it because you weren't going to pick a fight over it. Well, I mean, you picked arguments. You weren't going to pick a fight over it. Not going to just murder Gilliman because of it. That'd be awkward. So you did some weird shit after this. You got really pissed off with the Emperor's children for a while because they kept attacking stuff, I guess. They kept fucking around a bit too much.
Yeah.
So you decided that it was fuck around and find out time and tried to murder Fabius Bile. I guess just because fuck Fabius Bile.
Screw him, man.
Yeah, you just tried. You just spent a while fucking up the Emperor's children in particular, and specifically hunting one leader.
Yeah.
I don't know why you didn't decide to go for Fulgrim. Because I feel like that would have been the obvious choice of one of the Emperor's children to go after. But no, you decided to go for his chief apothecary instead.
Just screw him.
Yeah, fuck him.
That's why. That's why.
And basically, at some point along the line, or along the kind of next, 100 years, you just turned up to your kids and were like, I'm leaving. I'll be back at the end times. And then you just peaced out. You just left. And you were never seen again. For the next 1,500 years. And then you turned up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we've actually talked about this. In season 1. Do you remember this?
Oh, this is a long way back. I won't
this
lie,
was like this was like over a year ago, or like a year ago at least.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Do you remember the War of the Beast with a giant orc?
Where he got thrown off the atop of a castle or something? Is that?
No, that's the start of the heresy when Horus yeets an orc from the battlements.
I'm mixing them up.
Yeah, I think so. But the interesting thing, right, it's the same planet. So the planet that happened on was Ulanor, right? And then after the whole Great Scouring and everything, you get the War of the Beast, which was when a gigantic army of orcs led by an orc called the Beast, who is the size of a titan, turn up and start attacking stuff. I'm pretty sure this is the one where they sent a bunch of civilians to attack it and just got thousands of civilians murdered for no reason. So at some point during this, basically a massive war against a massive army of orcs, the likes of which had never been seen before, on the planet of Ulanor, so the same one that Horus had yeeted an orc from the battlements at the start of the heresy, the Imperials started getting reports of something totally decimating the orc lines. And they were like, what the fuck is going on? And then they started getting reports that it was Vulkan. And they were like, no one's seen this guy for like almost 2,000 years. What the fuck is he doing here? No way, it's actually him. It was you. It was Vulkan. He was apparently reported as defending like 18 different front lines at the exact same time. Because he was just he was using the teleporter in his hammer to teleport all over the planet. Yeah,
I remember this. So he was just constantly in battle, going from one to another.
Yeah,
right?
he would basically just teleport in, decimate a ton of orcs, and then teleport to the next one, keep doing it. So he was like actively defending like 18 battlefronts all at once.
I remember this now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long back though.
So just as I'm going to do like a little summary of it. I'm not going into the whole thing of the War of the Beast again.
Yeah.
But basically, after finding out it was actually Vulkan and what he was doing, they rallied with him, saved the day, got him on side, and then launched a full-on assault against the Beast himself, which ended with a bloody battle between Vulkan and the 40-foot-tall orc called the Beast, which ended with Vulkan basically dump-tackling it in a magic generator, which exploded and nuked them both in ash.
Oh.
I killed it. Or, like, it did what it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gets the job done.
Yeah, so this is the point where actually no one's seen Vulkan since.
Okay.
The thing is, Vulkan is actually an immortal. He cannot actually die. He just goes away for a while and then regenerates somewhere.
Puts himself back together.
Yeah.
In some way,
have you ever seen Watchmen?
No.
Have you not? Oh, it's quite good. It's a movie. Watch it. It's genuinely quite a good movie. It's like dystopian superheroes, but they're all pretty terrible at being superheroes. It's good fun. It's like The Boys. But one of the dudes in it is called Dr. Manhattan. And he got blown apart in some kind of physics experiment and then just put himself back together. And then later on, someone puts him in the same experiment to try and kill him. And he just comes back like 5 seconds later and he's like, why did you think that would work? Putting myself back together is the first trick I learned. I feel like that's what Vulcan's like. Like, dude, this is what I do. I put myself back together. I'll be fine. But because he is an immortal, he will come back at some point. You literally can't get rid of the guy.
No.
But there is like a cool prophecy about it, so may as well cover that. So the salamanders in current day believe that if they recover the 9 relics of Vulkan, or the 9 artifacts of Vulkan, sorry, I'll get the wording right. The 9 artifacts of Vulkan, then he will turn up. He will come back, right?
Yeah.
As it stands, 5 of the artifacts have been found, so there are 4 still to go. Issue is, they don't really know much about any of them or where they are. So it's just if they happen upon them, they can add it to the collection of crap. And then hopefully he comes back. I don't know if you've got to like put them in some kind of weird demonic circle and do a dance, or I don't know how it works once you get them all. I don't know the rules. I don't think they know the rules either. I think someone just made this up at some point. But, yeah, that's a thing. So, as a little fun thing, the 5 relics that have already been found so far, right? Because they're fun. Basically, I think they're all things Vulcan made. Or I think they're like the 9 best things he made or something like that. I don't know what makes them one of the artifacts rather than just like a gun. But
yeah,
the first one that was found was the Eye of Vulcan, which the first one that was found was the Chalice of Fire, which is a massive ship, which is basically just one big forge. So they found that, and then basically just flew it over at Prometheus, the moon, over Nocturne. And now there's just a giant forge ship over the moon, which crafts all the Salamander's weapons and stuff. That's quite cool. The second one was the Eye of Vulcan, which is the big-ass laser, Apparently it's, what is it? Its sight is as death, is the line about it. So basically, don't be in front of this laser. You will die. They got, it was like a 2-for-1 sale because they found that one mounted on the Forge ship. So
Yeah.
I actually think that might just be one. It might just be a ship with a really cool gun. But, you know, they make up this stuff, I guess, so I'm not going to argue with them. Third is the Spear of Vulkan. Fairly self-explanatory. Interesting thing, right? I've heard about this a lot. I've seen a few things about it on Reddit and stuff like that recently. There's like a principle within Warhammer. Doesn't matter which version you look at. If it's 40k Warhammer or Fantasy or Age of Sigmar, even Blood Bowl probably. Doesn't matter which one you look at. They have a premise, which is when it comes to naming things, it's just what is it and who does it belong to, for the most part. So the Spear of Vulkan. What is it? It's a spear. Who does it belong to? Vulkan. But if you go,
Very simplicity. Very simple, right?
But like, if you go, the one I've seen a lot, like online quoted, is in Warhammer Fantasy. You've got the Books of Nagash. What are they, and who do they belong to?
Books.
And they belong to Nagash. There you go. But I've started, like, it was one of those things that I've obviously seen it a million times reading all these books, and I've never thought about it being that. And now every time it comes up in one of the books, it annoys me now. It's one of those things, you don't see it until you see it, and once you do, you can't not see it.
You can't unsee what. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it just annoys the hell out of me. But such is life. Moving further on, the fourth artifact that was found is was it Casaris's mantle? Casair's mantle? I don't know how you pronounce it. Basically, it's a cloak of Drake scales that Vulkan wears. As you can see, he's wearing it right there. That way. My hand doesn't turn that way. Perspective is weird on cameras, man. So yeah, that weird cloak of Drake scales that he wears is one of the artifacts, which they have. They found that one. And the fifth one is the Gauntlet of the Forge, which is basically a big-ass armoured gauntlet with a flamethrower built in.
Nice.
Yeah. That's my favourite one, I'll be honest. Of the 5 they found, that's my favourite one.
Of course it is.
It's
so you.
Stealth is not my thing.
I know this for a fact.
Yeah. The only time I've ever done stealth, or the closest to it, is I think rather than setting off a smoke grenade, is killing someone by shooting it at them before it goes off.
This is Ryan for you.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, there are 4 relics that are artifacts that remain to be found, and upon finding them, apparently Vulkan will return. There seems to be a bit of a contradiction there to me, because the Salamanders believe that when they find all 9 of the artifacts, Vulkan will turn up, right? But Vulkan said he would return for the end times. You know, when the world, like when the universe is ending. So does that mean that there's going to be some coincidence where they find the 9th one just in time to save the day with Vulkan? Or, if they get all 9 together, does the galaxy start ending? Like, maybe there was a reason they're separated and no one knows where they are. Maybe if you get all 9 together, they've formed together into like a doomsday weapon that no one can stop. And then Vulkan has to come back and fix it. Like,
well, I feel like that's something Games Workshop can work around, right? They can have fun with that.
Yeah.
They can have some fun with it.
Although, it was only as I was explaining this that I realised the contradiction in that. So, there's a question. Which do we think occurs? Do we think getting all 9 together ends the universe? Or do we think that it's just going to be a coincidence that they happen to find the last one as the universe is ending?
I think the latter of those options.
Yeah, probably.
Hey, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. But, that all aside, we have one last thing to do.
Okay. Ooh, I know what it is.
The tier list.
Yes, I can really see where is.
So where is our boy Vulkan? Finding them's the trick on this, because I can barely read them and I'm looking at a reasonable size. He is second in B tier. He's this one that's green for some reason.
Ooh. So he's already high up.
He's above average.
Yeah, I feel like he should go way up. I don't know, I like him.
I thought you would. He's a cool guy.
I like him. I think maybe up in A tier, like
All right.
third spot from the top. I think
Which one?
third spot from the top.
All right. So
I actually like him a lot. I feel like his story is pretty cool.
it's pretty good, yeah. So so A tier is now Horus, Lehman Russ, Vulcan, Gilliman, Fulgrim, and the Lion.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And with that is the first half of this season done. And you know what that means? Next week,
Yes, I do.
we get on to the bad boys.
We go into the traitors.
Hell yeah!
It's gonna be nice.
It's going to be fun. But would you like to round us out for this one?
Well, sure thing, Ryan. So, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Season 3 of the Iterators of the Imperium podcast. It has been me, MEZ, and Ryan, and we will see you in the next one. Take care, and peace.
Bye!